Hi there, it's Catherine Cavella from IP Works Law, and today I'm here to talk about IP ownership. Should you own your intellectual property as an individual, or should you have it owned by a company, your company, or someone else's company, I suppose. A couple of the considerations, and if you haven't thought about this before, hopefully this puts it in your mind to actually think intentionally about what you want to do. A lot of times a lot of founders will just have themselves own the intellectual property without much of a thought to it. And sometimes that's because they might not want to have potential investors being able to control their intellectual property or make decisions. And I completely get that. And that may work to a certain point. But a couple considerations: whenever you have a person owning key intellectual property assets, there's actually two things that happen with people that don't happen with companies. One is people don't live forever, we die. And the second is people, God forbid, sometimes get divorced. So in both of those situations, if you own your company's key assets, key intellectual property assets, they are going to become part of your estate, and they're going to have to be dealt with one way or another. That can, in the best case scenario, really hold things up. And in the worst case scenario, it can actually really interfere with the company's ability to own and control those trademarks and patents and copyrights, trade secrets. So it's something to consider to have an entity, an LLC or a corporation or a trust, own your key intellectual property assets to protect them from that. That way, when you die or if you get divorced, it doesn't interfere with your companies from being able to do what it needs to do. So that's one consideration. Now, if you're still concerned about the operating company owning your key intellectual property assets because maybe you're worried about bankruptcy, that is something that happens sometimes. And again, you don't want your key intellectual property assets being part of a bankruptcy estate. That can also, be a little scary, potentially. So this is one of the many reasons why companies will sometimes have their intellectual property assets held by a holding company, an intellectual property holding company. There are some tricks to doing that and making sure that you get to have all of the tools you need when you're enforcing those trademarks and patents, etc. Especially with trademarks and patents. If it's not done right, it can actually make them difficult to enforce and to get the full meat out of the enforcement. But even so, IP holding companies, if you're at a point where you have multiple key intellectual property assets, it's probably time to talk about and think about an IP holding company. You can use that to get some tax advantages, and you also, you can save administrative costs as well by focusing the administration and licensing of your key intellectual property assets all in a single company that's not involved in operations. So anyway, I hope that gives you some food for thought and some help in trying to decide what to do. As always, feel free to follow us at ipworkslaw.com or subscribe to our newsletter. Always looking forward to bringing you information that might be useful about intellectual property. Thank you so much. Till next time.